The Blitz format is changing. Well, specifically it's changing for the skirmish seasons because LSS has put an announcement live on the website that now they have made the decision to allow some sideboarding for the Blitz format specifically. And how it works is the inventory that previously we were using to store all our different equipment pieces to bring into each matchup can now also be used to host some sideboard decks. Of course, this does mean that sideboarding in Blitz is quite limited because we do need to have all our regular equipment pieces in there as well, but it gives us a little bit of flexibility to maybe slot in like 3 to maybe 6 cards for certain matchups, especially against things like Wizard or Illusionist that are sometimes a little bit difficult to go up against. There are a lot of heroes out there that have very hero-specific sideboard decks already, things like Arc Smash and Brute, Dauntless and Warrior for example, or Frailty Trap and Ranger and Assassin, but in this video I want to specifically focus on the generic sideboard decks and even more so the ones that are affordable and easy to pick up for people out there, especially new players that have just started playing Flesh and Blood and that have just gotten started into the Blitz format. Pick these cards up, they're very cheap right now, they're just common and rare, so I think for the most part if you're watching this video maybe 5 months into the future, these should still be relatively cheap to get in general. So in my number 5 slot I actually have a card that normally I would not put into my Blitz decks, and that is Energy Potion. Energy Potion being a blue card makes it perfect against things like Wizard where you want to be blocking their arcane damage with blue cards anyways by pitching it through Arcane Barrier. But Energy Potion is very interesting against Wizard because if you go first for example and it is in your hand and the opponent is not doing anything, you can very easily just play this, have it on the field so you have 2 extra resources available for the rest of the game. Normally you don't want to play this in your deck in Blitz because this does not have a block value attached to it in the lower right corner, and since Blitz is such a low life total game in general, or format I should say, Energy Potion tends to be a rather risky card to bring, but against Wizard you don't have that risk because they're not using physical attacks anyway, so having this in your sideboard as an anti-Wizard deck in a Wizard heavy meta is quite a good idea. So my number 4 slot is Unmovable, and what I like about Unmovable is that it's very good against Guardian, but it's also very good against Wizard if you're bringing the blue version of it, and it's really good against Warrior as well, because with this card you can effectively stop something like a Kasai getting that second sword swing from hitting and denying them some copper tokens so that they can't combo off as soon as they would want to. So I really like Unmovable against that matchup. Of course against Guardian, especially Bravo right now, it's great to stop crush effects, and if you bring the blue version of this, it's still again a blue card that you can pitch in order to stop some arcane damage, which is just good in general. So I think a blue Unmovable that previously hasn't really seen much play in Blitz might actually become useful now with the format shifting towards a more competitive sideboarding meta. In my 3rd slot I have Fyendal's Fighting Spirit. I really like Fyendal's Fighting Spirit as a Phantasm popper against the Illusionist decks because it's a 7 attack if you bring the red one, so even if they debuff your attacks by -1 with something like the new Figment, the Fyendal's Fighting Spirit is still able to pop Phantasms by itself, and if you're lower on life you still get that little bit of life gain that can make things easier for you, so therefore I really like this card. On top of that, if you're behind in life, this is kind of a value play. If you have a blue in hand and a Fyendal Fighting Spirit, you can do some very fun stuff. We have seen that in decks like Icelander in the past, so I do think Fyendal's Fighting Spirit, specifically because that's a 7 attack and an upside when you block with it, is going to be very good against Illusionists in general, so you should definitely pick a couple of copies up, maybe even the yellow ones. In my number 2 slot I have Oasis Respite because this is just very good against Wizard in general because you can stop their big combo turns on demand by simply slotting this one into your arsenal, and then when you notice that they start going off, they can always respite a big spell of theirs in order to stop them from comboing off as efficiently as they would want to. So I think Oasis Respite is going to be very popular and important in Blitz going forward. And I think you will do yourself quite a bit of a service if you pick up a couple of copies of this card if you can. I know that I will be digging through all my bulk bins later on today to try and find every single copy I can find, just so I can put them in all my decks without having to switch them around between games and stuff like that. In my number 1 slot, I have FABTCG and kind of shared with Sink Below, depending if you are running Sink Below in your main deck already or not. I think these are just the best defense reactions to have in general, and if you're already running Sink Belows, you should probably add some FABTCGs in your sideboard, because there are always those matchups like Guardian where you cannot have enough defense reactions in general, or even against Kasai, because you don't want to be blocking with attack action cards against Kasai in general. So having extra defense reactions in your sideboard to be able to attack against these decks, it can put you in a very favorable position. Of course, in the Blitz format, things can be a little bit swingy, and if you run too many defense reactions, sometimes you can lose your tempo completely if you break on these and you just draw too many copies of pretty much any defense reaction. But I think the way things are changing and shifting now, especially since we are allowed to go over that 40 card limit, I think having a couple of extra DRs in the sideboard for these really crucial matchups is going to be a good thing in general. So if you don't have FABTCGs yet, because I know most people probably have the Sink Belows, but not as many new players have the FABTCGs because they don't really see play in Blitz or Constructed, pick yourself up some copies now and you should be pretty much set for any future heroes that might require extra defense in general. So these are my top 5 picks at this point of time. If I see a certain cyber tech that I think like, this is quite important for people to pick up in general, I will of course do an update video sometime in the future. But for now, pick up these cards while you can. Anyways, that's all for me for today. Thank you for watching. If you watched this video, please leave a comment down below. I'm not getting enough comments on my videos, and if I want to continue creating Flesh and Blood content, I need more engagement on my videos. That's just the bottom line. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time with the next video. Take care.